Good Thursday evening, and welcome to This and That, the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gilloway, and along with my partner, Bill Bostic, we hope to bring you guests and topics you'll find both fun and captivating from the worlds of local politics, arts and leisure, pop culture, and beyond. Our sponsors for This and That, the podcast are the American Legion Post 272, the Robert H. Hoke American Legion on North Mountain Road, Team PA, AAU basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. Thanks to these great local businesses for their continued support of our little podcast. Bill, how are you this evening?
I'm doing just fine, and hard at work with working with you. This is a busy season with election season winding down.
I didn't know we were going to have this type of season. It has been a season. I'm enjoying it. You know, we've been able to kind of rub elbows with some very nice people. I've said this probably 10 times now. You know, these candidates, and we're going to meet another one candidate for Lower Paxton supervisor, Allen McCormick, tonight. They're all nice people. You know,
right.
I thought they all did a really great job at meet the candidates. What was that? 2 weeks ago now? Or was it
at least? Yeah, I think it was 15th or something like that.
Yeah. So it's been gratifying to have the opportunity to kind of allow these people to present themselves to the community and to be kind of the conduit or the person, the people, you know, helping to do that. So anyway, episode number what, Bill? We're about done with this, but you're doing really well. How many episodes is this for us?
This is number 31.
Unbelievable, man. You're doing great, Bill. And this is big news here.
What's that?
You just learned about this morning.
Yeah, at the Turkey Hill.
Is that where you were?
I was at the Turkey Hill holding court.
Here's what happened. You have been covering local politics for decades, right? Long time.
Since 2006. Yeah.
Okay, so just about 2 decades. Lower Paxton Township politics, Central Dauphin School District politics. Well, This and That, the podcast is very new at it. And I just kind of feel like, you know, whenever we do something on the podcast that has anything to do with Lower Paxton Township and Central Dauphin school districts and how they're run, like the government of these entities, I'd like for Linglestown Gazette to be our partner in that. So not a whole lot's changing, you know.
Well, we have to rejigger the contract, but other than that.
Is that what we have to do?
Yeah.
So we're going to be 2 trusted sources, Bill, with 1 shared goal. How's that sound?
That's beautiful.
I was hard at work this morning, drinking coffee and just trying to come up with. But I think this is going to be cool. That like right now, if anybody doesn't have This and That, the podcast on their Facebook, or they don't know how to navigate to YouTube, which it's also on. This show right now is on YouTube, but they are Linglestown Gazette followers. They can watch this tonight. So
yeah,
we're just kind of giving.
Can I throw one thing in before?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to let people know that when it comes to Linglestown Gazette, we are gearing up, working with Royal Winery for a big celebration. I'm not going to go into details, but for our followers and readers, I'm only going to have room for not a huge number of people to show up. So, but I do want to invite a number of our readers. So the more active anyone is on the Facebook page, and they're engaging, they're liking things, especially commenting, maybe sharing things, those are the people I'm going to be looking for to invite. So if you want to be involved in an upcoming celebration that I'll formally announce in the near future, get out there and get involved in the discussions on Linglestown Gazette.
So this is kind of like a private soiree, huh?
Yeah, soiree. I'm not sure what I have to do to have a soiree, but
well, it's at a winery. That's a good start. So anyway, upcoming on This and That, the podcast. How about Sunday night?
Yeah,
we have sitting. Would we call her a sitting supervisor? Lower Paxton Township.
She's standing and sitting.
Well, yeah, she sits mostly, but she is the sitting. She's also the chair of the Lower Paxton Township Board of Supervisors, Laura Kurtz. And she's running to keep her seat. She's running on, of course, Tuesday's the election. So red alert, everybody. Vote. Get out and vote. Hopefully you've already registered. And if you haven't mailed in your vote, which I do, and I like doing it, and but get out and get to your polling place and cast your your votes. And then we have next Thursday, a week from tonight, Thursday the 6th, we have Justin McShane from the McShane firm. Bill, we're getting some really kind of accomplished and interesting people on this show. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, Laura's accomplished and interesting. Justin McShane's accomplished and interesting. And we're going to be bringing in a gentleman here momentarily that I think is accomplished and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of exceeding my expectations. I don't know what my expectations were going into all this, but it's working out pretty well.
Fortunately for us, we have no competition, which means we started out as number one right out of the gate.
We're number one. All right, let's just see if there's a question here or a comment before we bring our guest in. That's Anthony Castillo. He wants to go to the winery.
Yep, no problem. He's in.
All right, so let's bring him in now. Allen McCormick. How are you, Allen?
Gentlemen, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Allen, you only put your first name in the little name field there. So we will remind everybody it is McCormick, and you are also a sitting Lower Paxton Township supervisor who is also running to retain your seat.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I got to get these the terminology right with this stuff. I've kind of let's just say from both sides. I might have misspoke a little bit, not really too much, but and not on purpose. But and I know that you were appointed. So
Sure.
to me, you're still a sitting supervisor, and you are running to retain your seat on Tuesday.
Yes. Interesting fact about that appointment, Joe. Norm Zumas resigned last December.
Right.
I was appointed January 6th of this year. And at the time, Paul Navarro and Chris Judd were still sitting supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
And they voted yes to appoint me. But also Robin Lindsay and Pamela Thompson voted yes to appoint me. I was appointed unanimously to the board. And I'm kind of proud of that.
That's worth noting. Yeah. Thank you for explaining that. That's worth noting for sure. So anyway, let's get into this. I'm going to get started here, Allen, and then Bill's going to kind of clean up, and we have a good amount of time here So just tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, I know we can't start with kindergarten and go the whole way. But where are you from originally, Allen? I know that you spent some time in the military. What did you do professionally? Kind of give us the Cliff's Notes if you can. We do want to allow the viewers and the potential voters to know a little bit more about a side of you they may not already know.
Okay. I was born in Fort Hood, Texas. My parents, my father was a military man. He was 15 years active duty, and whatever the difference between 15 years and a total of 43 years service, he spent the rest of the time in the Army Reserve. Actually, my mom told him when he came back from Korea that if he didn't get out of active duty, that she would not remain his wife. She was, of course, scared beyond belief that he was not going to return from Korea. That was an ugly war, and he was highly decorated for that, including a Purple Heart, Bronze Star with B for Valor, a Commendation Ribbon. He saw some really ugly action. So when he got back, he decided to get out of the military, but I was born in Fort Hood, Texas before he got out. I lived in California for a time, right outside of LA in a place called Fontana. Loved it out there. Little America, beautiful. But we moved to central Pennsylvania. That's actually where my mom was from. She was born in Cleveland, but she spent her young life and her early adult life in Altoona, Pennsylvania. So she convinced my dad to move the family back to Altoona. We lived there until 1985, when we moved to the Harrisburg area. In 1972, I joined the military. You might remember, but in those days, the Vietnam War was going on. I was in basic training in Fort Dix, New Jersey in the summer of 73. I just missed Vietnam. The Vietnam War was officially over in I think May of 75, but in the summer of 73, we were doing a drawdown. They were taking more troops out of Vietnam than we're going over. So I missed that war, but I did manage to put my feet in Operation Urgent Fury in Grenada and also Operation Desert Storm in the Middle East. I commanded a unit in Desert Storm. As a commander, I was responsible for the everyday lives and the everyday decisions of, a number of men and women who served with me in my unit. And the reason I bring that up is because I had to make many decisions, some of which were literally life and death decisions. So the decision-making ability that I think I bring to the table in Lower Paxton Township as the Lower Paxton Township supervisor is highly developed. The other thing about the Desert Storm is that my unit was awarded a meritorious unit citation. And I take great pride in that because one of the things I do well, gentlemen, is I think it's proven by some of my successes in the past, I'm able to build consensus and I'm able to bring people together. And I don't, I think it was Ronald Reagan, but it was probably a couple of dozen people who said, it's amazing what you can get done when nobody cares who gets the credit, And that's kind of my attitude. I don't really care who gets the credit as long as we get the job done and we accomplish what needs to be done. And I think since I've been appointed to the Board of Supervisors in January, that there's a few things, maybe as many as half a dozen that were, if not for me, those things don't get done. And I can't talk about them all because some of them are not the kinds of things you're supposed to talk outside of, executive session. But I will tell you that I served in my civilian life. I served in technology and communications, big companies and little companies. AT&T is a company I'm sure you'd recognize.
Sure.
Commonwealth Communications. I also started my own business, New Era Technologies, which I eventually sold to my partners. And I want you to know that you learn an incredible amount when you start your own business, including what you learn is that if you have partners in a business, it's kind of like every partner is kind of like having another wife, because that's the kind of level of interaction and discussions and communications that you have to get into. And what I realized was that for me and my partners, it was best if we separated. So I sold my company out to them and did okay. The other thing, I worked for the state of Pennsylvania for a while. I was the director of an organization within the Department of General Services called Automated Technology Acquisition Office, which is the same thing as saying IT, right? Information technology, but the state had to have their own name for it. But while I was there, my organization was awarded the Distinguished Work Unit every year that I was there. And again, that's because I did things to treat people who were in my organization like real people. The reason I left the state, very honestly, gentlemen, is that the bureaucracy can be just so overwhelming and, mind-numbing sometimes. What I learned about working for the state is if you follow the rules, you'll never get in trouble. Even if you don't get the job done, as long as you follow the rules, you'll be fine. Getting the job done is not the most important thing when you're working in the state government. And that really, gentlemen, is what frustrated me beyond belief and the reason why I left there. So that in a nutshell, in my personal life, I had 6 children, one of which has preceded me in passing. But my 5 surviving children, I have 11 grandchildren and I've got a couple of great grandchildren. I've been well and truly blessed. They all live in and around central Pennsylvania. My family grew up in Lower Paxton Township. As I said, we moved here. My family moved here in 1985. So for 40 years, we enjoyed all of the benefits of living in Lower Paxton Township. And I think that's my campaign slogan. I want to keep Lower Paxton Township the same great place it's been for the last 40 years.
Wonderful. That sounds like a very full, gratifying, and well-rounded life you've had, for sure.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything. Bill, why don't you jump in here, bud?
Okay. The one question I had that really is outside of our format, I'm just curious, Alan, you've been involved in a campaign. You've worked as a team with your 3 other colleagues who are Republicans. What was it like on the campaign trail? Did you do any door-to-door stuff?
I have done door-to-door. We sat down very early and recognized that 4 supervisors being elected at the same time is a massive chore. And what we agreed to do was work cooperatively and collectively. You'll see that we didn't coordinate our signs or we didn't do things like that, but we met regularly and made decisions collectively.
Okay.
We did some things to bring the organized political party into what we were doing. We made some other decisions to bring in some outside help. we did some creative things like direct mail and text messaging to phones to let people know about the election. But you mentioned the other three people on our team, Bill, and I just want to tell you, I said this at Lincolnstown Area Civic Association meeting. Laura, and I know Laura's going to be on your show on Sunday night, but she is so intelligent. She's so impressive. She is exceedingly intelligent. She's very intuitive. Her full-time job is helping municipalities be successful as an attorney. And she's also very insightful. Many of the good ideas we've had on this campaign and many of the good ideas we've had as supervisors are directly attributable to Laura's keen insight. And I know you had John Jean.
That's it. You got it.
on the other night. And I have been so impressed with John. He's an engineer by trade, roads and bridges. He speaks their language. And when the people from our various organizations that do roads and maintenance and that kind of stuff, he understands them completely. And when you're that well versed in a certain particular topic, you know where the BS is and you know where the truth lies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And quick and decisive in asking the right questions and determining the right, delving into the question so he gets the right answer, even if it's not the answer you want to hear. And I can't leave Jill out. Jill, her full-time job is an attorney. She works for the state of Pennsylvania, actually the state legislature, and she teaches the ethics class to our state legislators. So I couldn't ask for a better team to be running with. I think in many ways they may have more formal education than I do,
Right.
but the life experience I bring to the table, the decision making, the military experience, the leadership, the consensus building, I think I add to their to their knowledge base very, very well.
So kind of a well-rounded team, well-rounded unit.
We've been going door to door and getting a lot of positive response. I'm going to say this, and I don't want this to be interpreted as any individual, but this job is hard, okay? It takes a lot of time. And it's hard when you get yelled at from the audience while you're having a meeting.
Yeah.
Now, that's okay. I signed up for it. I willingly took the position. But I think that your listeners and your viewers should be a little bit concerned about someone who wants this job so badly that it becomes a very personal thing for them. As I said, this job is hard. The pay is very little bit pay, long hours. You're certainly spending more. I mean, if you divided it out to what you get paid per hour, it's probably 18 cents an hour.
I was going to say 10 or 15 cents an hour. I want to say that just for those who are watching that have no idea what it comes out to. Yeah.
And it's all the extra stuff that you have to do besides just the 3 meetings a month, and important decisions, decisions about, hiring and firing and those kinds of things. And as you know, we just went through a process where our immediate past township manager left and we hired a new one. And there was a lot of meetings and a lot of interviews that went along with that. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if there's an individual running, I think there is, who wants this job so badly, I think we ought to wonder why they want it this bad. If I get elected Tuesday night, I'll be fine with it. This is what I want to do.
Right.
But if I don't get elected, it's like the public's doing me a favor, because while I think I have a lot to offer, if they don't elect me, I'll recapture a lot of time that I can use with my terrific family. So I'm looking forward to the election results.
All right. So here's some of the things. I either go to the meetings in person, or I watch them on online, most of them. And here's some of the issues that, we all know are issues or have been issues, kind of the sexy ones. And by sexy, I don't mean in the literal term, but, the ones that kind of draw people's attention. Sure. We've been talking about fireworks. Okay. Yep. We had been talking about paid firefighters. That's kind of in place now, right? At least 8 of the 10, I think we're almost completely staffed there. How about the roundabout? We think we might be getting to the other side of that. And again, this isn't life or death, or probably not, but these are the issues that people care about. The Wenrick Street project, that's just now becoming a more of an issue, or And I hear a lot of people talking about stormwater management, like their yards getting kind of flooded and enough talking about that now that it seems like it is an issue. Not everywhere, not in my yard, but maybe down the street in their yard. And then Hodges Heights, of course. And you and I, we spoke briefly kind of off the record, Alan, about the Hodges Heights. They're just some of the things. Are any of those kind of your hot button issues? Or if none of those are, what are your hot button? Like, if you already to be elected, reelected, or elected, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Be sure you say that.
Yeah. If you are, I've slipped up. If you were to be elected on Tuesday,
there you go.
Are any of those hot button issues for you, or if not, what are?
When you say hot button issues, Joe, I don't have any hot button issues. It's funny, when I was first appointed, somebody came to me and said, what is it you want to do? What is it you want to do? And I said, I don't understand the question. He said, well, everybody who comes to the board, they have some pet project or some pet peeve. I don't. As I said before, I've lived here for 40 years. I love this place. I love my neighbors. And it's a great place to live and work and to raise kids. And I want it to be the same thing. But I'll touch on some of the issues you ask about the fireworks. Mm-hmm. Listen, next year is the 250th anniversary of the nation. I think we should have fireworks because I think it's that kind of special occasion. I'm one vote of 5. There has to be a majority. And very honestly, I can't meet privately and separately. The most I can talk to is one other supervisor at any one time, because if I'm talking to 2, that means it's 3 and it's a quorum, and that is against the sunshine law. So I can't do that. So I don't know what's going to happen with fireworks. I hope we have them.
Now there's a poll online available, which I think as of the last board meeting, there had only been 455 submissions. Yeah. I think that's the number I recall, which is very low. Are you
well over 900 now?
Okay, good. So it's double now. That's great. Is the board going to use that poll to make their decision, or just use that information towards your decision? How's that going to be made?
Well,
do you understand what I'm saying there?
I understand completely, Joe. Okay. And I think each supervisor will make up their own mind. I think that there's more pushback about spending $25,000 for fireworks than there is should we have fireworks or not. I think there's more pushback about if it's not safe, should we have fireworks or not. And I think there's a way that we can address both of those issues. I think we can get local businesses to help support and to sponsor, if you will, fireworks.
I do too.
I think that's something that's very reasonable to get accomplished. And I also think that there's ways that we can either choose the venue or make it a little bit more safe for people. And we have some ideas how to do that. And I think if we do those things, maybe more people would be more supportive. So go ahead.
Jump on. Grab the next one. We're running a little short on time, and okay, I apologize. I mean, we could sit here for an hour and a half, and I know we could, but Bill has something he needs to do a little bit later, and I want to make sure that we give you the quality time, that we're able to between now, and we'll keep you on for another full 5 minutes. We'll just all go off the air together. How's that sound, Bill?
Sounds good to me.
Or I can just leave and you can carry on. That might be the best way.
You paid firefighters, roundabout, Wenrick Street project, housing development.
Paid firefighters. We're into our budget meetings, and the Bureau of Fire have already asked for 10 more firefighters. The Board of Supervisors is reviewing that request and looking at it and trying to figure out, can we afford it? I think what I would like to see, I don't want to speak for anybody. What I'd like to see is 24/7 coverage with full-time firefighters being available so that we can get a truck out when the fire hits within 90 seconds. So that's that answer. How we will do that, what the right number of paid firefighters, career firefighters is, I don't know yet. We're still looking at that. As far as Wenrick Street goes, guys, you own a piece of property, right? You own property in Lower Paxton Township. If somebody tells it, now obviously we have ordinances. You can't have you can't have a pig farm in your backyard. That's against the ordinances. So there's some reasonable restrictions on your property. But these developers are meeting all the zoning and the ordinances, so they have private property rights. Now, as I've explained to several people several times, they fit. What they've done is righteous and legal as far as their ownership of that property.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. I haven't heard anybody challenge that.
No.
So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the problems that their development will create are things that we can address early on, so that those problems are paid for or eliminated before they become real problems. Now, I don't know what we can do about the increased number of students for the schools. I understand Central Dauphin School District has some crowding problems now, but according to the law, what our responsibility is to let the school district know 30 days after we've approved a project. Well, we got them involved months before we approved the project so that they could get started planning for this. By law, the way the law reads is if they build new homes, the school district has to provide classrooms for these students. Now, some of the things I think will mitigate this is, we have these online schools now, we have these charter schools, we have kids, learning at home. I think there's ways we can somewhat relieve some of the problems. And I hope the school district will take that under advisement. We want to work with them so that we can minimize any problem. When it comes to the other, like the roundabout, we're not going to change the roundabout. But again, using John, who knows a lot of people in PennDOT, you've probably seen some of the signs are already gone up. Some of the restrictions, he's already fixed it so that people won't get permits to drive big rigs, the really big ones, the oversized loads through there, like has been done before. So we've done a lot of work in that area to already eliminate those problems. And there's going to be more, guys. There's going to be more issues and more problems. The stormwater you mentioned, the law reads, we were forced into doing the stormwater and the sewer. The stormwater and the sewer had to be separated, and the stormwater had to be treated a certain way. That's a federal law. We're sitting downstream at the bottom of the chain. We don't have a choice. We must do that. Consent decree was entered into with DEP and Lower Paxton Township long before this board got here. Now, what we are doing is what the law says is that the private property owner is responsible for any changes that go on after this stormwater occurs. And what we want to do is, we want to be realistic and help our residents as much as we can with helping to find solutions if there are problems. So, we're not just abandoning our residents. We're trying to find a way to walk a very narrow pathway to helping our residents wherever we can. So these are the issues we're currently working on. But, oh, by the way, there's more issues in the future. Bill stood up at one of the meetings and said, hey, how come we're a second-class township and not a first-class township? Well, let me tell you, one of the reasons we're not a first-class township is that instead of having 5 supervisors that represent all 54 or 55,000 people equally, with a ward system instead of in a first-class township, you divide this township up into wards, and each ward has to compete with one another for any kind of government money or any kind of grant. So now what you have is, instead of 5 supervisors that represent all citizens equally, you've got ward leaders that, in their system of wards, they don't have supervisors, they have commissioners. So the commissioners then break off and start trading votes. Hey, if you give me your vote for my ward, then I'll give you my vote for your ward. And what happens is it tends to pit neighbor against neighbor in any kind of project or any kind of grant or anything like that. Oh, we have money for a new park. I want it in my ward. No, it's got to be in my ward. So that's just one of the many conflicts that we're hoping to avoid by keeping the second class, much more flexibility in government with the second class township designation. And I don't want to take all the time. I know we're very short now, so I want to take all the time talking about that. But those are, Colonial Park Mall is another. What do we do with the Colonial Park Mall? Is there a way that we can create an avenue of economic development so that can no longer be the eyesore that it is turned into? America's buying habits have changed. We buy online now. We don't go to malls. So,
all right, Bill.
Things we're working on, guys.
Yeah, good luck, Alan, in the election, and
thank you, Bill.
We're gonna take this down the home stretch, Alan, because I'm trying to give each candidate a half hour, and we're kind of closing in on that anyway. So you did a great job there, because I asked you a handful of issues, and you addressed 3 or 4 of them, and I forgot to ask you about the mall, and I think a lot of people care about the mall too. I mean, there's a lot of underlying things that we're not all privy to.
Right.
Maybe Bill and myself just a little more because we cover government. We kind of talk to people like you sometimes, but you have people that are just, they're either going to work every day, raising families. They're retired and just worried about bridge club and stuff like that. They don't know a lot of these issues, until they're like pop up and they're right in front of their face. And then it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on here?
And with the mall, Joe, what people don't know is Boscov's owns their piece of the mall.
Yes.
Sears owns their piece of the mall. There's another gentleman who owns the majority of the rest of the mall. But by the way, there's restaurants and there's a jewelry store, and those people have special kind of considerations as well. And oh, by the way, people forget there's a stream that runs underneath that mall, and that means wetlands.
Right.
And a couple of times a year, the Sears people don't know. Sears has a basement. A couple of times a year, that basement gets flooded out. So all of these are considerations. And several developers have looked at that property and said, we can't make money with this. So while we recognize something has to be done, we don't know exactly what that something is or how to attract the right people to make that something happen. But we'll be working on it, and we're going to hire an economic development. We're going to hire a person that has economic development skills, and that's sometime in the future. And they're going to help us do that. And I'm optimistic about our ability to be able to make a difference there.
So let's close things up this way. And this is going to be, I'm going to use the term canned again, but this is the kind of question that you're probably hoping to get, or kind of teeing it up for you here. If Mr. and Mrs. Voter out there, let's just say, and there are these people that they don't follow this. They don't even know who Allen McCormick is, maybe, with respect to you.
Very true.
They don't know who a lot of the candidates are, maybe none of them. If you had them sitting here, or if they're sitting at home watching this, what would you say to them to maybe let them know that a good sound vote would be for Allen McCormick on Tuesday?
Very, very simple, Joe. There are people in this race who have ulterior motives for why they want to be on the Board of Supervisors. I'm a very simple guy. I want to work for my 55,000 bosses that I have. I said the other night, they're talking about, I mentioned the firefighters, and they were asking me to vote yes or no as to whether or not we would hire the first career firefighters. And I didn't know all the issues, so I had to learn about it. And that's what you'll find with me. I won't spend money frivolously. Our campaign slogan so far, that we've used is strong on safety, smart on spending. I won't frivolously spend our taxpayer dollars. I will understand the issue before I vote yay or nay. I'll look for input from the public before I vote yay or nay. And I guess what I'm saying is the campaign slogan that I mentioned earlier for myself individually, let's keep Lower Paxton Township the same great place it's been for the 40 years I've lived here, is what I would tell people. Did you know, Joe, that more than 50% of the voters in Lower Paxton Township are seniors? And
no, but that kind of makes sense. I've lived here a long time, and I know that there's a significant portion of our population are seniors. So doesn't surprise me.
Without being disrespectful to any other person who's running for office, I qualify as a senior. I understand what 50% of the voters are concerned about, their daily concerns, their weekly concerns, and their love of the township. I understand that. I've been here 40 years. So I am the average, more than 50% of the average voters. And I think that what I would tell the voters is that I'm flexible enough to understand the concerns of the younger voters, but the majority of the voters in Lower Paxton Township, I understand completely.
Okay. All right. Well, Allen McCormick, we really appreciate it. We wish you well. Maybe I'll see you for coffee Saturday. Is it Saturday morning?
Friday morning.
Friday morning. That's tomorrow morning.
All your Friday mornings at St. Thomas Roasters, 7 to 9 a.m. Come meet the Republican candidates for supervisor, and we'll buy you a cup of coffee. That's our.
Very good. Thank you, Allen. Thanks a lot for joining
much.
us. It's good to know you, and I wish you well. Either way, I wish you well. You're a compliment to this community, one way or the other, and I wish the township well on Tuesday. How about that?
I do too. Let's both agree to that. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks so much, Allen.
Bill.
Yep.
Thank you both.
Enjoy your evening.
Good night.
Take care.